The lawyer cleared his throat and read another name from the will. To Patricia Moreno, the estate bequeaths the family home, valued at $800,000. My aunt smiled. To Brianna Moreno, all jewelry and $200,000 in cash assets. My cousin touched her chest like she was shocked. The lawyer kept reading. Uncle James. Distant cousins I barely knew. Dollar amounts. Properties. Heirlooms. My name never came up. Not once. Brianna leaned toward my aunt, but her whisper carried across the whole room. Guess Grandma knew who really cared. Aunt Patricia looked right at me and smirked. That's when I realized. They'd been planning this all along. My name's Isabella. I'm 28. I work as a museum archivist. It's not glamorous. I make enough to pay rent and sometimes splurge on takeout. My job is all about details, preserving documents, authenticating signatures, organizing fragile pieces of history so they don't get lost. For 5 years, I spent every Sunday with my grandma. Every single one. I'd show up with coffee and pastries, and we'd go through old photo albums. I taught her how to preserve them properly, how to label everything so the memories wouldn't fade. We'd sit for hours while she told me stories about her childhood, her parents, the family I'd never meet. The rest of them? They showed up twice a year. Maybe. Christmas and Thanksgiving, and even then, half the time they'd ask Grandma for money before dessert was served. I wasn't expecting a fortune. I really wasn't. But being erased completely? That felt like those 5 years meant nothing. I didn't have Brianna's designer bags or my aunt's vacation home in Scottsdale. I didn't have the kind of money that turns heads. But I had 5 years of real memories. I had her laugh. I had the way she'd squeeze my hand when she got to the good part of a story. If you've ever been pushed aside by family, subscribe right now and tell me where you're watching from. Because what happened next proved that sometimes the people who love you leave you exactly what you need, even if no one else can see it. What they didn't realize was that while they were counting money, I'd been paying attention to something else entirely. The lawyer kept going. To Patricia Moreno, the estate also bequeaths the car collection, valued at approximately $120,000. I sat there, hands folded in my lap, trying not to cry. Even distant cousins I'd met maybe twice got small bequests. 1,000 here. A piece of furniture there. My name didn't come up at all. The lawyer looked uncomfortable. He kept avoiding my eyes. When he finished reading, Brianna actually laughed. I'm shocked Grandma was so generous, she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. I only visited on holidays, but she must have really loved me. Aunt Patricia nodded, folding the paperwork like she'd just won something. She knew who treated her like family, Patricia said, looking straight at me. Not like a charity project? I couldn't stay quiet. I was there every single Sunday for 5 years. Patricia's smile didn't move. Sweetie, spending time doesn't mean you understood her. You need to respect her final decision. The room went silent. I wanted to scream. I wanted to flip the table, but I just sat there, frozen, while everyone filed out with their inheritance letters in hand. Brianna brushed past me on her way out. Better luck next time, she whispered. I stayed in my chair, staring at the empty table. That's when the lawyer walked over. Miss Moreno, he said quietly, could you stay for a moment? Everyone else had left. It was just me and him in that cold conference room. He reached into his briefcase and pulled out a sealed envelope. Your grandmother left specific instructions, he said. She wanted you to receive this privately. My hands shook as I took it. I didn't open it until I got to my car in the parking lot. Inside was an antique key, small, brass, old, and a handwritten note on Grandma's stationery. Check the attic, the blue trunk. You'll understand why I had to do it this way. Trust yourself. Grandma. I sat there for 20 minutes, reading it over and over. I was confused, heartbroken, but also intrigued, because Grandma never did anything without a reason. That night, I checked my phone and realized I wasn't in the family group chat anymore. I scrolled up. The last message I'd seen was from 3 weeks ago. I texted my younger brother, Jordan. He's the only one in the family who stayed neutral. Did they remove me from the group chat? He replied 10 minutes later with a screenshot. It was weeks of messages I'd never seen, planning the will reading, discussing who'd get what, and then one message from Aunt Patricia. Let's keep Isabella in the dark. She was always so nosy with Mom's paperwork. Better she stays out of it. Brianna had replied with a laughing emoji. I felt sick. I kept scrolling. There were more. Brianna had posted photos of the jewelry that same night, captioned, "Blessed by Grandma's love." Comments poured in from family friends, people saying how close she and Grandma were. I wanted to throw my phone across the room, but I didn't. I took screenshots instead. A few days later, I ran into Aunt Patricia at a cafe near my apartment. She was with a group of her friends, all of them dressed like they'd just come from a spa day. I thought about walking past, but I couldn't. I walked up to her table. "Patricia," I said, keeping my voice calm. "Can I talk to you for a second? I think there might have been a mistake with the will." Her friends went quiet. Patricia looked at me like I'd just asked her for spare change. "Not everyone gets an inheritance, honey," she said loudly. "Some of us earned our place. You were lovely company, like a volunteer." Her friends laughed. Not loud, but enough. "You're young," Patricia continued, waving her hand. "You'll make your own way. This was real. Family business." I felt my face go hot. I turned and walked out without ordering. As I reached the door, I heard her say it. She always was entitled. I drove home and cried in my apartment for an hour. But when I stopped, I remembered something. The key. The note. I still had a way in. 2 days later, Brianna showed up at my apartment. No warning. Just knocked on the door like she owned the place. "I need the photo albums," she said the second I opened the door. "What?" "The ones you and Grandma made. Those are family property." I stared at her. "We made those together. She wanted me to have them." Brianna crossed her arms. "Do you have that in writing?" "Because I have a legal will that says I'm the heir. Hand them over or I'll send my lawyer boyfriend." My hands were shaking, but I went to the closet and pulled out 3 albums. I'd hidden 2 others under my bed. Brianna took them without saying thank you. As she walked out, she stopped in the doorway. "You think time means more than blood?" she said. Grandma clearly disagreed. The second the door closed, I pulled out the key again. I had 2 weeks before the house was sold. That's what Jordan told me. If I was going to find out what Grandma meant, I had to move fast. I started thinking about the last few weeks before Grandma died. There was this one conversation we'd had. It was strange at the time, but I didn't think much of it. She kept asking me about my work. "If someone changed important papers," she'd said. "Could you tell?" I'd nodded. "Usually, yes. Ink aging, paper type, handwriting analysis. It's part of my training." Her face had relaxed. "You always were the careful one." Now, sitting in my apartment with the brass key in my hand, I replayed that conversation in my head. I pulled up old photos on my phone and found one from 2 years ago. Grandma's attic, cluttered but organized. In the corner, barely visible, was the blue trunk. I zoomed in. It had the same kind of lock that would fit this key. Then I remembered something else. Aunt Patricia had visited Grandma the week before she died. She lived 2 states away and never visited. But that week, she'd driven all the way out and spent hours alone with Grandma. At the time, I thought it was nice. I thought maybe she was finally stepping up. But now, my archivist instincts kicked in. Something didn't add up. I didn't want to believe my own aunt would do something terrible, but I couldn't ignore the feeling anymore. I called David, a friend from college who'd become an estate attorney. I met him at his office the next day and showed him the note. He read it twice. If she wrote this and wanted you to find something, you may have grounds to contest the will. He looked up at me. Did your grandmother have any cognitive decline? No, I said. She was sharp until the end. That's what makes this so weird. David handed me his card. If you find substantial evidence, call me. I'll help you. That night, Jordan texted me a screenshot. Aunt Patricia had hired an estate sale company to clear the attic in 5 days. Everything unclaimed would be sold or donated. I had less than a week. Brianna posted on Instagram the next day from inside Grandma's house. Redecorating my inheritance. The comments were full of people congratulating her, praising her close bond with Grandma. I took more screenshots. I still had a key to the house. They'd never asked for it back. I planned it for Tuesday morning, Aunt Patricia's standing hair appointment. She never missed it. Jordan agreed to be my lookout. I packed gloves, my phone scanner, and a camera. Monday night, I barely slept. I kept rereading Grandma's note. Trust yourself. Tuesday morning, my phone buzzed. It was Brianna. Don't even think about going to the house. You're not welcome there anymore. I stared at the message. They were watching me. They thought they'd won. They thought I'd just disappear, like I always had. They were wrong. I got to the house at 9 a.m. My key still worked. Inside, everything felt wrong. Furniture had been moved. Family photos were already gone from the walls. I went straight to the attic. The blue trunk was buried under boxes labeled "Donate." I pulled it out, my hands shaking. The key fit perfectly. Inside were stacks of documents in plastic sleeves. Grandma had used the preservation methods I'd taught her. On top was a letter, dated 2 weeks before she died. To Isabella, and to any court that needs the truth. I read it 3 times. Grandma explained everything. The original will, written 2 years earlier, left the house to me, because I was the one who actually cared for her. But 3 weeks before she died, Patricia had brought an updated will. She'd called it tax paperwork. Grandma signed it under pressure. She was exhausted, on pain medication, and Patricia wouldn't stop pushing. She regretted it immediately, so she hid the evidence for me to find. Underneath the letter was everything I needed. A photocopy of the original will, notarized 2 years prior. My name as the primary beneficiary. Medical records showing Grandma was on heavy pain meds the day she signed the second will. Time-stamped photos proving I'd visited every week while the rest of the family stayed away. Grandma's journal with an entry that made my chest ache. I feel trapped. Patricia won't stop pushing. I just want peace. And then, at the bottom of the trunk, a small tape recorder. I pressed play. Aunt Patricia's voice came through, clear as day. Mom, just sign it. You're not going to live forever. This is easier for everyone. I took everything to David's office that afternoon. He went through it piece by piece. This is absolutely contestable, he said. The original will has stronger legal standing, especially with evidence of coercion. I took a breath. I need to confront them first. I called Aunt Patricia. I found the blue trunk. There was a long silence. What are you talking about? Meet me at Grandma's house tonight, I said. Bring Brianna. I could hear her breathing on the other end. Fine. They showed up at 7, arms crossed, faces hard. I was already inside, standing in the living room with David beside me. I didn't say anything at first. I just pressed play on the recorder. Patricia's voice filled the room. Mom, just sign it. You're not going to live forever. Patricia's face went white. Brianna's voice cracked. That doesn't prove anything. I laid the original will on the table. Then Grandma's letter. Then the medical records. David stood silent, a witness. Patricia's hands were shaking. She was confused. She said quickly. I was helping her organize. You manipulated a dying woman, I said. Your own mother. I handed her a document. I've already sent copies to the probate attorney. Brianna started crying. We didn't mean for it to... I cut her off. You didn't think I mattered. You didn't think she loved me. Patricia's voice went desperate. We can split everything. Work this out privately. You had every chance to do right, I said. You chose cruelty instead. I handed her the legal paperwork contesting the will. See you in court, I said. Or you can sign David's settlement honoring Grandma's real wishes. Your choice. 2 months later, they settled. Aunt Patricia couldn't risk a public trial. Not with that recording. The original will was honored. I got the house and the personal items. Everything Grandma truly wanted me to have. Patricia and Brianna got reduced financial portions. Now, I'm standing in my house. The one Grandma meant for me all along. I'm looking through the photo albums they tried to steal. I found one last picture tucked in the back. Me and Grandma, laughing over a pile of old documents. Her face looks knowing, like she'd planned this the whole time. She didn't leave me out. She left me everything that mattered and the tools to fight for it. Jordan came by last week. He apologized for not standing up sooner. We don't choose our family, I told him. But we choose what we accept from them. I installed new locks. Patricia and Brianna's calls go straight to voicemail now. For once, their silence didn't hurt me. It freed me. I finally understood I never needed their approval. I just needed to trust myself, like Grandma said. So that's my story. Grandma knew exactly what she was doing. She just needed me to trust myself enough to find the truth. If you've ever had to stand up to family betrayal, hit subscribe and tell me your story in the comments. Where are you watching from? Drop your location below. I read every one, and your story deserves to be heard. And if someone believed in you when no one else did, drop their name down there. They deserve to be remembered. Thanks for being here. See you next time.